the mid portion of the country. And finally, emergency upgrade and modification works on the NITS to increase reactive power support and improve voltages in the mid portion of the country.
Okay,
So,
and that is a key. What I did was to, this is a statement,
yeah,
press statement, but if you check the PLC website, they have the full investigative report there. In there, you find additional detail about the causes of the power outages, including what the PLC finds to be delayed investments in the national interconnected transmission system and delayed completion of some projects as well. That had come up. Some civil society organizations have raised concerns that government had delayed in putting in investments into this infrastructure, which has led to the collapse in the transmission grid system. They also found in the detailed report that there are several key network enhancement projects commenced by Gridco, which were started in the 2020 electricity supply plan that were expected to have been completed but were stalled. Another reason why we're having the challenges now. And PLC says the delay in completion of these projects has posed serious transmission constraints to the grid. And they go on to list these projects, some of which has now started.
yeah.
They also say over the first quarter of 2021, ECG experienced a number of network challenges due to various reasons. Most of the outages within the ECG network were unplanned and resulted from emergencies. And so a lot of it had to do with emergencies.
Yes.
That's why, so there's a separate reason which we've heard already about the expansion projects, etc. But
Right.
a lot of it emergencies. And guess what? That made up 89% of the outages. Emergencies unplanned just happens. 89%, largely attributed to the the obsolete nature of the infrastructure. Now, it also goes ahead to state that most of the outages attributed to Gridco were due to system disturbances and faults. For example, there was 381 outages alone attributed to this problem with Gridco. But I also found this interesting. The commission also noted that there was poor communication between the distribution companies and the transmission utility. So ECG and Gridco, they are not communicating effectively, which the PLC also has found. And they say that in view of this, the Commission has now requested the relevant utilities to submit within 2 weeks. So there's an ultimatum that has been given to both ECG and Gridco to submit within 2 weeks an effective and comprehensive communication strategy and protocols that will ensure efficient management of the power system.
Right.
And so these are some very interesting details in this report that has just been published by PURC. But there's also talk tonight from the PURC of some compensation possibly that consumers can get.
Right. So according to this statement signed by Mami Dufi Ofori, who is the executive secretary of PURC, they say that following the conclusion of the preliminary investigations, the Commission, in accordance with its regulatory processes, is ascertaining the liabilities and possibility of compensation to consumers in recognition of any loss occasioned by this erratic power supply. The Commission further encourages customers to report any of the damaged equipment to the nearest ECG or NEDCO office for the appropriate action, failing which the report may be forwarded for PURC for redress, and they have some contacts over.
Like you could do it. I mean, thank you very much. I want to bring in the spokesperson for the PURC now, Bawa Monkaila, joins us on the telephone line right now. Bawa, you in the statement says that the Commission, you are currently ascertaining the liabilities and possibility of compensation. I mean, why didn't we put that in a report already? Why isn't it going to take a bit more time now to give compensation to consumers who have already been affected after all these weeks of investigations?
Okay, Evans, thank you very much, and good evening to your cherished listeners across the country. Yes, that's very true. You know, when we issued the statement on the 11th of March 2021, we stated that we were investigating the matter, and then we'll come up with the appropriate regulatory sanctions if there need be. And exactly what we've done, the report is out. We've really done vigorous investigation into the system. And you know, as a regulatory body, we deal with regulatory standards and industry benchmarks. So when it happens like that and you don't deep through to the root cause of the matter and you end up sanctioning or asking the utility providers to compensate consumers, you may end up not doing the right thing. So that was why we had to go through the investigation, come up with the report before we will now determine the category or the level of compensation that will be given to customers.
I mean,
Why?
Okay, yeah, explain. Because I find that very curious. Because you've already done, you know the problem, so that then leads you have a basis now to go on and sanction.
Exactly. This report has outlined the findings of the investigations that we did. Now, what we need to do is to now deep through to the levels and then the category of compensations that needs to be given to customers. Why this? Because it wasn't the entire country that suffered. And even the parts of the country that suffered, it wasn't everybody who had the impact at the same level. And also, when you consider the Commission's tariff system, we have a graduation tariff structure. That is the lifeline, follow up to the next consumption structure, to the next, through to the SLT customers. So when you have all these things, the compensation definitely should not be the same. So the frequency of outages in the neighborhood, we are now going to determine that, and then the duration of that particular outage in a particular neighborhood. So it's not everybody that is going to be compensated at equal levels. So that is now the statistics or the work the Commission is doing now through a panel that it has set.
The compensation, once determined, will be paid by the utilities as a punishment, correct?
Exactly. And these compensations are usually paid through maybe credit, in form of a credit or energy given to customers.
So there's another panel that's going to work on this. When will they complete, and when can consumers expect to hear firmly from the PLC on what they're getting?
Currently, you know, the Secretariat is working without a board. So even if the panel is done with the findings or with appropriate compensations to be paid customers, we still have to wait for a board for the approval to be given before the utilities can be sanctioned to compensate consumers in that regard. So we are still holding on until we get the board. However, the Secretariat goes ahead in finding the solution to these problems.
Munkala, thank you very much. That's a PRC spokesperson there on this latest information coming out of the utilities that you can expect some compensation due to the erratic power supply that you have experienced over the last few weeks and months. But the panel is now looking into that. However, the Commission has tonight completed its investigations, and they published a detailed report into this, telling us all the reasons why that happened, including delayed investments, but also poor communication between the utilities, the transmitters, and the distributors as well. We keep an eye on this closely, and once we get the very latest on that, we'll bring that to you because it affects you. Another issue that will affect you and definitely affecting people already is the increase in the fuel, the cost of fuel at the pumps. And tonight, the Ghana Private Road Transport Union is demanding a 15% increase in transport fares. That will hit almost everybody else. Now, the leadership of the union, however, say they will be compelled to demand more if some oil marketing companies continue to defy the MPA's directive for them to reduce fuel prices by 8% per litre at the pumps. Now, a stakeholder meeting between government and the stakeholders in the transport sector to determine the increases in fares this week ended inconclusively. We can hear from the General Secretary of the GPRTU, Godfrey Abulberry, joins us on the telephone line right now. Godfrey, thank you for your time here on Top Story. And so tell me, I mean, you've gone into the meeting asking something around 15%, but you say that this could be more if the 8% reduction we had announced this week by the Energy Ministry is not effected at the pumps.
Good evening, Evans, and thank you for calling me on this matter. Evans, we went to the meeting with the Transport Ministry that was last week Thursday, and then the information given to us that day was that possibly by May 1st, there was going to be another fuel increment that was going to be announced. So we're being advised that why don't we just hold on and get the actual increment on the fuel that we can justify our percentage increment on the lot of fares. Yes, we were able to meet last Wednesday, and then what we then saw was that the sudden reduction of the 8 pesos out of the initial 17 pesos announced had also given us another second thought. If we were going in to ask for 20% at the negotiation level, and then the fuel margin has also been reduced, definitely our point was to make sure we cannot ask for the 20%. But before that meeting, we went around throughout all some of the fuel companies, and then Goyle, we picked from Goyle, we picked from Frames, we picked from some 3 fuel companies, and then we saw that they were selling at 6.50 per liter. To mean that the reduction of the 8 pesos as announced had not been effected at the pump. So we made this known to the minister, and he said then we needed to hold on. Coming Tuesday, that will go around and check and ensure that it reflects the reduction, and then we can actually do by what margin we can adjust our lot of fares. So we are yet on that negotiation to see whether that reduction is reflected before we can go ahead.
If that reduction doesn't reflect, you are at what, 15% increase, just based on
yes, if it will be asking for 10 to 15%.
Yes. Okay. Stay with me. I want to bring in Duncan Amma with the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. They were represented consumers in this meeting with the Energy Ministry where the 8 pesos reduction happened. Duncan, you just listened to the GPRTU say that they've done your checks and they haven't seen the decrease, although very marginal. They haven't seen it yet at the pumps, and that will determine how big a jump in fares we see. What's your reaction to that? Because it was clear to us this week when the ministry issued a statement that should reflect at the pumps.
Well, Ivan, good evening to your listeners and the GPRTU rep. What I can confirm without equivocation is that the 8 peso reduction that the Minister for Energy, the Honorable Matthew Opoku Prempeh, authorized has taken effect. And I heard the gentleman, the GPRTU General Secretary, say that they did some monitoring and realized for stations like Goyle, Total, Vivo, price board is currently reading 60 and 5 pesos. What that means is that the 60.13 that was earlier advertised, if you take out the 8 pesos that the Minister for Energy scrubbed off, you come to the exact figures that he rightly indicated. So yes, the 8 peso has taken effect. What is good for the market, however, is that not every oil marketing company might even push to the 6 cedi and 5 peso region. You would find a good number of them operate under the 6 per liter, 6 Ghana cedis per liter mark. And so that means that whilst you look at Gold, Shell, Total, probably to give you the peak pricing, you would find a lot of other oil marketing companies who would clearly be charging a little below what the market leaders clearly are charging. And so I can confirm that, yes, the GPRTU and all other driver bodies are likely going to get fuel a bit cheaper than 6 cedi 5 pesos, although the standard template for now has become the 6 cedi 5 pesos that the big three companies have indicated, and that is less the 8% that the minister instructed should be taken out. Other than that, their board would still be reading 6 cedi, 13
pesos. I mean, Godfred, so the 6 cedi 5 pesos you mentioned is actually the reflection of the reduction.
I think I heard you right.
Yeah.
I heard you right. It is actually as a result of the reduction. But in the initial, the calculation was about 6 cedi 13 or so.
Yes.
Then after the 80, but we said from the day we have started the negotiation with the transport ministry to get the lorry fare adjusted, the figure wasn't 6.5.
Yeah, definitely.
It was about 5.8 or 5.98. So, in effect, there's still some increment.
Yeah. So the increment you've seen is a result of the taxes, the new taxes I were introduced in the budget.
Exactly. So that is why we are certain that by coming Tuesday, we will go back to the transport ministry and conclude our negotiation. We are also mindful that whereas we are speaking to get that increment to comfort our members, we are also on the view that whatever increment we are going to do should not be too much exorbitant to affect our customers. Really, for the running cost of a vehicle, there are so many cost elements there that we normally consider before we can speak on lorry fare adjustment. And looking at the current situation and then coupled with the COVID-19 pressure, we were speaking on that line with the minister so that a particular margin that both our members and our customers can acceptably work on that.
And I understand you getting some agitation from your members who want this done as soon as possible.
It is obvious. That one is obvious, Evans. When the moment fuel prices are announced, the following morning, the pumps quickly change and then they sell at the new rates. So we are supposed to now operate on the old fares until the negotiation is done, and then the percentage is released, and then we write to them. So obviously the agitations will come, but we still impress upon them that we are having the largest transport union, even coupled with the GSCC. Our effects will have more pressure on the whole Ghana. So that's why we are a bit cautious, although we are speaking to them to be a bit patient with us.
Godfrey, thank you very much. And so you're saying that the commuters across the country can expect increases in transfer fares latest by Tuesday next week.
Exactly so.
Godfred is the General Secretary of the GPRTU there. That's something you can plan with. Next week, Tuesday, expect the fares to go up. The length and breadth of this country, wherever you are, you may have to then begin to pay more for transport fares. And let's stay on this because we're hearing now from the minority on the back of these fuel price increases and its rippling effects. The Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, yesterday called on government to scrap all recent imposed margins by the NPA on petroleum products. That has been blamed for the significant jump you've seen. And the argument by ACEP is that if you take off those margins, the prices you are paying at the pumps at your favorite filling station will be significantly lower. The National Petroleum Authority this year adjusted the BOST fuel marketing, Unified Petroleum Price Fund, and primary distribution and oil marketer margins upwards. I want to bring in the former Power Minister, Dr. Kwabena Donko, who's joined us on the telephone line on this, with the position that he's expressing, also backing this particular move. Dr. Donko, thank you for your time here on Top Story. So you say, government needs this. Hasn't this always been part of the price build-up? You say it should go now.
Who says why should go?
The margins, the NPA margin, all these margins that we had, the BOSS margin, the fuel marketing, Unified Petroleum margins that we've had, that all account for the increases we've seen at the pumps.
No, I haven't said. I've only said that the fuel marking margin should be scrapped.
The fuel marking margin, which is one of the elements in the build-up. Okay, how much of a difference would that make?
Yeah. Well, when they announced pricing on 1st May, they said 8 pesos on a liter. Subsequently, the minister and stakeholders met and they said they've reduced it to 5 pesos per liter. And I say that should go. That should go not just because of the quantum, but that it's become redundant. The fuel market margin was brought in. Later, they brought in tracking, and then now they use electronic tax. And if you look at the totality of the measures, they are all aimed at preventing basically adulteration and theft. And so it is an overkill. You don't need 3-4 different methodologies to achieve just one thing. You don't need it. And therefore they should scrap that, because if the tracking is properly implemented, it will take care of the theft and then adulteration. Apart from that, they also have a resource enterprise management system software, which enables MPA to authorize every single point of delivery that fuel tankers, that which we call BRVs, bulk road vehicles, go to. And if you authorize and you track, then there is no need for the fuel marking again. And that is what I'm saying, that they should scrap that. And not just that, that we should take do a holistic review of all the margins. All the margins came into place at very different times. Some have been 2 decades old, others a decade old, etc. And we keep on adding. It is time that we review all of them. Let the minister set up a committee to review all of them and to see the relevance of each margin. And if a margin is relevant, what democratic control are we going to place on the MPA? Because the MPA, as it is, literally, arbitrarily changes the margins. And that is why the minister had to call them to order. And therefore, as the industry grows, we should be reviewing some of our practices.
Overall, though, what's your sentiment on the fuel price increases overall? Do you sympathize with the GPRTU, the general public on this, or you think it is just necessary? It's a necessary evil. It's just what has to be done.
Look, as a person, my side of the divide opposed the imposition of those taxes. And remember, those taxes are the primary increase. It isn't the world market situation, but the taxes which were increased and some new taxes introduced on fuel. Those are the major drivers of the fuel increase. And my side opposed them in Parliament. Unfortunately, we're in a democracy, the majority won. But we still stand by our position that those taxes, especially in this period of low economic activity, we think those taxes will add to the hardship of Ghanaians. What we don't look at as a people is efficiency gains. A good review of our margins, of our pricing, and some of the provisions we make will save some money. Unfortunately, we are more addicted to just slapping on more taxes and increasing taxes. If you take our general taxation in particular, are we efficiently collecting taxes? We are not. And because there's a need for revenue, we rather increase the taxes instead of improving efficiency and effectiveness. Yeah.
I'm grateful Dr. Kwabena Donkor is a former power minister there, sharing the thoughts of the minority on the recent increases. You want to stay with us for Ghana Connect, which is coming up in a minute. You can guess what conversation we are having tonight. We are connecting Ghana and beyond to discuss the Fix the Country debate that is still trending all over Twitter and Facebook. We connect shortly after the break.